Julian stood at the altar, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their trembling. At 29, he had built a financial empire that most men twice his age could only dream of. But today, in this grand cathedral with its soaring ceilings and soft candlelight, he felt like a prisoner walking to his execution, an arranged marriage. In this day and age, it seemed absurd. But when your family's company teeters on the edge of bankruptcy and a merger is the only solution, sometimes the old ways return. His father had made the arrangement with the Castellano family, their daughter for his business acumen, a transaction dressed up in white lace and flowers. Julian had not even met her. His father said her name was Isabella, 26 years old, educated in Europe from a good family. The words meant nothing. They were marrying strangers to save empires built by their grandparents. There was no romance in it, no choice, just duty and obligation. The organ music swelled, and Julian's chest tightened. This was it. The doors at the back of the cathedral opened, and he saw her silhouette, backlit by the afternoon sun. She wore a traditional wedding gown with a long veil that covered her face completely, adorned with delicate lace flowers that caught the light. She walked alone down the aisle. Julian had heard her father had passed away 2 years ago, and she had no brothers to give her away. Something about that detail made his heart ache slightly. She was alone in this too. As she drew closer, Julian studied what he could see. Her posture was elegant, but her steps seemed hesitant. She held a small bouquet of white roses, and he noticed her hands were shaking slightly, just like his. She reached the altar and stood beside him. Through the veil, he could see only the shadow of her face. They turned to face the priest, and the ceremony began. The words washed over Julian like a distant echo. He heard himself making promises he was not sure he could keep. To love, to cherish, to honor. How do you love someone you do not know? How do you cherish a business arrangement? When it came time for the vows, Isabella's voice was soft but steady. There was something in her tone that surprised him. Not resignation, but a quiet strength, as if she had made peace with the situation in a way he had not. Then came the moment. The priest said the words Julian had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. You may now kiss your bride. Julian turned to Isabella. His hand reached up slowly to lift her veil. This was the moment he would finally see the woman he had just married, the woman whose name would be linked to his for the rest of their lives. He lifted the veil and the world stopped. The woman standing before him had dark eyes that held depths he could not fathom in a single glance. Her face was beautiful, yes, but that was not what stilled him. It was expression in those eyes. Vulnerability mixed with strength, fear mixed with hope, and something else he recognized because he felt it too. Loneliness. But there was more. As Julian looked at her face, recognition struck him like lightning. The cafe, he whispered. Isabella's eyes widened. The businessman. 6 months ago, Julian had been having the worst day of his life. His mother had just been diagnosed with cancer. His company was bleeding money. He had gone to a small cafe to escape, to think, to breathe. He had been sitting alone, his head in his hands, when someone placed a cup of coffee in front of him. You look like you could use this, a gentle voice had said. He had looked up to see a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She was a stranger, but something about her presence was calming. I didn't order anything, Julian had said. I know, she replied. But sometimes what we need isn't what we order. Sometimes someone else has to decide for us. They had talked for 2 hours. Julian never told her his name or his circumstances, and she never asked. She told him she was dealing with her own struggles, family pressures, expectations she was not sure she could meet. They had connected in that anonymous way that sometimes happens between strangers who know they will never see each other again. When Julian left, he wanted to ask her name, to see her again. But she had smiled and said, "Some people come into our lives just when we need them. Maybe that's enough." He had thought about her often in the months since. The stranger in the cafe who had shown him kindness when he needed it most. And now here she was, standing at the altar in a wedding dress, his wife. "It's you," Isabella breathed. "All this time you were you. And you were you," Julian said, his voice thick with emotion. The priest cleared his throat gently, reminding them they had an audience. But Julian barely heard him. He was looking at Isabella, really looking at her, and seeing not a business arrangement but a person, a woman who had shown him compassion when he was at his lowest, a woman who had been carrying her own burdens even as she tried to lighten his. "May I?" Julian asked softly, gesturing to the kiss they were supposed to share. Isabella nodded. Julian leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. But she did not pull away. When their lips met, it was gentle, tentative. But underneath it all was the spark of recognition, of possibility. When they pulled apart, Isabella whispered so only he could hear, "I never thought I'd see you again." "Neither did I," Julian replied. "And I never imagined when I did you would be my wife." The reception that followed was a blur of congratulations and champagne and people Julian barely knew. But through it all, he and Isabella kept stealing glances at each other. Each looked filled with questions and wonder. Finally, they found a quiet moment on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. "I should have asked your name that day," Julian said. "I wanted to. I should have given it," Isabella replied. "But I think I was afraid that if I knew who you were, if you knew who I was, the spell would break." That moment in the cafe, it was pure. No expectations, no complications. "And now?" Julian asked. Isabella looked out at the city. "Now we're married. Our families got what they wanted. The merger will go through. Everything is exactly as it was supposed to be, except we already knew each other," Julian finished. "We already cared, at least a little." Isabella turned to him. "Did you? Care?" "I thought about you every day since that afternoon," Julian admitted. "The woman who bought a stranger coffee and talked him through the worst day of his life. I wanted to find you, but I didn't know where to start." "I thought about you too," Isabella said softly. "Wondered if you were okay, if your situation got better, if you found what you were looking for." Julian took her hand, noticing how perfectly it fit in his. "My mother is in remission now. The cancer treatment worked. And my company, well, it's about to be saved by a merger." "To my family's company," Isabella said. "To your family's company," Julian confirmed. "Which means you saved me twice. Once with coffee and kindness, and once with a wedding vow." Isabella laughed, a genuine sound that made Julian's heart lift. "I'm not sure I saved you. We saved each other. My family's company needed your expertise as much as yours needed our resources." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment.